Commander Victoria Nash stood at the observation deck of the SSV Thunderchild, her weathered face reflected in the reinforced plasteel as she watched the storm-wrecked planet below. Kepler 427 bits wasn't much to look at, just another disputed colony world on the edge of human space. But something about this routine patrol had set her combat instincts on edge. "Commander," Lieutenant Drake's voice crackled through her neural link. "Long-range sensors are picking up unusual energy signatures in Grid Sector 7. Definitely not colonial tech." Nash's augmented pupils contracted as she processed the tactical overlay. "Assemble Phantom Team. Full combat loadout. Whatever's down there, I want us ready for anything." Within minutes, her elite squad of 5 operators gathered in the drop bay. Each wore the latest Mark VI Spectre combat suits, midnight black armor that could bend light around itself, powered by microfusion cells and neural linked to their enhanced reflexes. Sergeant Maya Ghost Rodriguez checked her pulse rifle one last time. "What's the word, Commander?" "Could be nothing," Nash replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. "Could be the Arcturus Mercenary Legion finally making their move on our colonies. Either way, we're going to find out." The team's combat specialist, Marcus Havik Chen, grinned as he shouldered his particle cannon. "Been itching for some action. These colonial patrols are getting boring." "Careful what you wish for," warned Dr. Sarah Patch Williams, the combat medic and biotechnology expert. Her fingers danced across holographic medical readouts projected from her gauntlet. The 5th member of their team, Trevor Cipher Andrews, remained silent as always, his cybernetic eyes scanning data streams only he could see. As their electronic warfare specialist, he preferred to let his hacking do the talking. The drop pods launched with a thunderous crack, their ablative shields glowing orange as they punched through the atmosphere. Nash's neural implants filtered out the bone-rattling vibration as they plummeted toward the surface, her mind already running through combat scenarios. They landed 2 kilometers from the energy signature, their pods boring into the rocky soil like mechanical meteors. The team emerged in perfect formation, their armor's adaptive camouflage shifting to match the rust-colored terrain. "Movement ahead," Cipher's synthetic voice whispered through the tactical net. Multiple signatures, definitely not human. Nash's enhanced vision zoomed in on the ridge ahead. What she saw made her blood run cold. 3 towering figures in Baroque armor stood examining the wreckage of what appeared to be a colonial survey post. Their chitinous exoskeletons gleamed dully in the alien sun, and multiple arms held weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Krevlak Mercenaries," she subvocalized to her team. "Elite ones, judging by their loadout. They're not supposed to be anywhere near this sector." "Should we engage?" Ghost's finger hovered near her trigger. "Negative. We observe and..." Nash's order was cut short as one of the aliens turned, its compound eyes reflecting the dim sunlight. It raised what looked like a ceremonial staff, which promptly transformed into a plasma cannon. "Contact," Nash shouted as the ridge erupted in energy fire. "Phantom Team, combat spread. Show these bugs why humans don't play nice with colonial raiders." The first battle between human special forces and alien mercenaries was about to begin, and neither side yet realized how it would change the course of galactic history. The Krevlak mercenaries expected an easy victory. What they got instead was their first lesson in human warfare. Commander Nash's voice cut through the chaos with machine precision. "Ghost, Havik, flanking maneuver Delta. Cipher, blind their targeting systems. Patch, stand by for casualties." The alien plasma fire carved glowing arcs through the air, but the Phantom Team moved like shadows between the rocks. Their neural-enhanced reflexes and training turned what should have been impossible dodges into fluid dance moves. "These primitives are faster than expected," clicked Supreme Warmaster Koval to his subordinates. His mandibles twitched in frustration as another burst of plasma found only empty air where a human had been milliseconds before. "Activate the hunting drones." A dozen spherical objects launched from the Krevlak's armor, unfolding into deadly hunting machines. But Sci-Fi was ready. His cybernetic systems reached out, launching a viral attack that turned half the drones against their masters. Their technology is amusing, Sci-Fi commented dryly as chaos erupted among the alien ranks. Sophisticated, but their cybersecurity is decades behind human standards. Ghost and Havoc had meanwhile worked their way around the ridge's flanks. Maya Ghost Rodriguez lived up to her call sign, her suit's active camouflage making her nearly invisible as she closed in. Marcus Havoc Chen was less subtle, his particle cannon announcing his position with a thunderous roar that stripped away chunks of the Krevlak's exotic armor. "By the Eternal Hive," screamed the youngest Krevlak warrior, Sakri. "They're not just resistant to our weapons, they're adapting to our tactics in real time." Kaval watched in growing horror as the humans' movements became increasingly precise. Every time his warriors adjusted their strategy, the humans countered it faster. Their neural networks were learning, evolving their combat patterns with each exchange. "Patch" status on their armor composition. Nash called out as she rolled behind a boulder, energy bolts crackling where she'd been standing. Dr. Williams' medical scanners had been gathering data throughout the fight. Their exoskeletons are biological armor, Commander. Enhanced by technology, but still organic. Targeting data uploaded to Team Network. The revelation spread through the Phantom Team's shared combat consciousness. Suddenly, their weapons found weak points they hadn't seen before. Havoc's particle cannon punched through previously resistant armor. Ghost's pulsed rifle found nerve clusters that sent Krevlak warriors sprawling. "Impossible," Kaval roared, firing his staff cannon in increasingly erratic patterns. "We are the galaxy's premier hunters. We are the apex predators of 1,000 worlds." Nash's voice cut through their tactical channel with cold amusement. "Apex predators, allow me to introduce you to something we humans call technological evolution." The battle shifted dramatically. The Krevlak's sophisticated but rigid combat protocols couldn't match the humans' ability to improvise and adapt. Every time they deployed a new weapon or tactic, Phantom Team had already calculated 3 counters. "Commander," Sci-Fi reported, his synthetic voice tinged with satisfaction. "I finished decrypting their tactical database. They're not just raiders, they're advanced scouts for something bigger." "File that away for later," Nash ordered, marking another target. "Right now, let's focus on teaching these apex predators why picking a fight with human special forces was their last mistake." Skri, the young warrior, was the first to break. "Supreme Warmaster, we must retreat. These creatures, they're not just soldiers, they're combat algorithms made flesh." But retreat was no longer an option. Ghost had already disabled their shuttle's engines with precisely placed charges, while Sci-Fi had locked down their emergency teleporters with quantum encryption. Kaval watched his carefully laid plans crumble, along with his species' reputation as unstoppable warriors. In just minutes, human special forces had done what entire alien armies had failed to accomplish. They had outmatched, outmaneuvered, and thoroughly demoralized the legendary Krevlak mercenaries. "You wanted to hunt humans." Nash's voice echoed across the battlefield as her team closed in for the final push. "Welcome to Earth's masterclass in warfare. Lesson 1. Humans aren't prey. We're the ultimate predators. And class is now in session." Supreme Warmaster Kaval's mandibles clicked in a gesture of desperate surrender. "Hold. We yield, and we bring warning." Commander Nash kept her weapon trained on the alien leader, neural implants scanning for any sign of deception. "Talk fast. My trigger finger's getting itchy." The battlefield fell silent except for the cooling hiss of spent weapons and the low hum of powered armor. The remaining Krevlak warriors stood frozen, their proud postures now bent with the weight of defeat. "The swarm approaches," Kaval's translator crackled. "We were not here to raid. We came to assess human military capability against what comes next." Sif's synthetic voice cut through the team's private channel. Commander, detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system, multiple vessels dropping out of fold space. The sky above them lit up with burning streaks, but these weren't shooting stars. Through her enhanced vision, Nash watched as massive, organic-looking ships emerged from hyperspace, their surfaces writhing with living metal. The Nexus Hive, Sukri explained, his young voice trembling. They consume everything in their path, entire civilizations reduced to biological resources. We believed humans would be easy prey for them. We were wrong. Patch, what are we looking at? Nash demanded. Dr. Williams' medical scanners whirred as she analyzed the data streaming from orbital satellites. Biomechanical entities, Commander. Highly evolved. They're not just ships, they're living weapons. And they're beginning planetary descent. Why come to warn us? Ghost asked, her pulsed rifle still aimed at Kaval's head. Your kind doesn't strike me as a charitable type. Kaval's compound eyes reflected the burning sky. Because we have seen them consume 1,000 worlds. Because your species, you humans, fight differently. You adapt, evolve, create. The Nexus Hive cannot predict you as they predict others. Havok laughed darkly. So you tested us by trying to kill us. Hell of a job interview. We have to know, Sukri interjected. Have to understand if the stories were true. If humans really could. He trailed off as another ship emerged, this one large enough to blot out the sun. Nash's tactical display lit up with urgent warnings. Colonial defense systems were already engaging the first wave of drop pods, but it was like trying to stop a tsunami with a paper fan. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. Commander, Siffer reported, his cybernetic eyes processing vast streams of data. I've analyzed their ship configurations. They're similar to the Krevlak's biotech, but far more advanced. However, that might be an advantage. Nash saw where he was going, because we just spent the last hour learning how to fight biotech warriors. She turned to Kaval. Your armor, your weapons, they're derived from Nexus technology, aren't they? The War Master's mandibles clicked in affirmation, stolen and modified over centuries, but we could never fully master it. The Hive, they are the source, the original. Then we have a choice to make, Nash announced, lowering her weapon. We can either stand here measuring who has the biggest guns, or we can work together and show these Nexus bastards why picking a fight with humanity and her new allies is the last mistake they'll ever make. Kaval rose to his full height, towering over the humans. You would trust us, after our deception. Trust. Nash's laugh was sharp enough to cut steel. No, but we're going to give you the chance to prove you're smart enough to pick the right side of history. Phantom Team, sound off. Are we really going to let some oversized space locusts crash our party? One by one, her team signaled their agreement. Even Ghost, though she kept her rifle ready. Very well, Kaval declared, raising his staff cannon toward the burning sky. Then let us show you Krevlak battle songs, and you can show us how humans wage war. Siffer, get me a direct line to command, Nash ordered. Tell them we've got good news and bad news. The good news is we've got some new allies with insider knowledge of our enemy. The bad news. She watched as the first Nexus drop pods began to pierce the atmosphere, their chitinous shells glowing with eldritch energy. The bad news is we're about to find out if humanity's best and the galaxy's deadliest mercenaries together are enough to stop an invasion that's consumed 1,000 worlds. And class is definitely in session. The command center of the SSV Thunderchild had transformed into an unlikely war room. Holographic displays showed the approaching Nexus High ships, while humans and Krevlak worked side by side, centuries of military doctrine being shared in desperate hours. Their Hivship neural networks operate on quantum frequencies, Siffer explained, his cybernetic eyes streaming data across floating screens. Similar architecture to your biotech, but magnitudes more complex. Svakri, the young Krevlak warrior, leaned forward on his multiple limbs. Yes, this is why direct electronic warfare fails. The networks, they think, adapt, like a living mind. But not like a human mind, Nash interjected, her augmented intelligence processing battle scenarios at lightning speed. And that's our edge. Patch, what did you find? Dr. Williams projected her medical scans of the Krevlak armor. Their biotech interfaces with their nervous systems, similar to our neural links. If we combine our quantum processing with their biological interfaces, we could create a hybrid virus, Sci-Fi finished. One that speaks both machine and flesh. Supreme Warmaster Kaval's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Krevlak equivalent of raised eyebrows. You propose to merge our technologies. Such a thing has never been attempted. Welcome to humanity's greatest hits, Havoc grinned, checking his particle cannon's charge. We specialize in impossible. The plan came together like a deadly puzzle. The Krevlak would provide their biotech knowledge and access codes, remnants from their centuries of scavenging Nexus technology. The humans would contribute their adaptive combat systems and unprecedented talent for turning weaknesses into weapons. Operation Stormfall, Nash announced, marking targets on the tactical display, a joint strike at the heart of their neural network, but we'll need a diversion. Ghost materialized from her active camouflage. The Colonial Defense Fleet is engaging the smaller ships, but they're getting shredded. We need something bigger. Then let us give them something unprecedented, Kaval declared. A Krevlak battle hound, sung through human weapons. The plan was audacious, borderline insane. The Thunderchild would lead a fleet of colonial ships in a frontal assault, broadcasting Krevlak biosignatures to confuse the Hive's targeting systems. Meanwhile, Phantom Team and a select group of Krevlak warriors would infiltrate the Hive ship using modified drop pods. Once we're inside, Sci-Fi continued, we'll need to reach their central cortex. I've modified our neural interfaces to process both digital and biological data streams. When we plug in, we give them the worst case of indigestion they've ever had, Havoc finished, hefting his weapon. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Krevlak biotech was grafted onto human weapons. Neural interfaces were recoded to accommodate alien thought patterns. Two species that had been trying to kill each other mere hours ago now worked in perfect synchronization. Ready for drop in 5, Nash announced as her hybrid team assembled in the launch bay. The modified pods looked like a cross between military hardware and living tissue, much like the unlikely alliance about to use them. Kaval's warrior coast stood ready, their traditional armor now augmented with human tech. Sukri had taken to the modifications with particular enthusiasm, his young mind more open to innovation than his elders. Commander, Patch called out, making last-minute adjustments to their medical systems. The biofeedback from these hybrid systems, if anything goes wrong inside that Hive ship, then we improvise, Nash cut her off, like humans always do. The launch countdown began as the Thunderchild shuddered under the first waves of Nexus attacks. Through the bay windows, they watched colonial ships engage the massive alien fleet, buying them precious time. You humans truly are remarkable, Kaval observed, checking his modified staff cannon. In all our centuries of warfare, we never considered simply asking our technology to do something new. That's because you think of it as technology, Nash replied, sealing her helmet. We think of it as tools, and a tool is only as limited as its user's imagination. The launch klaxon sounded. In moments, they would be fired directly at the massive Hive ship, riding the line between brilliance and suicide that humans knew so well. Phantom Team, sound off, Nash commanded. Ghost, ready to hunt. Havoc, guns hot. Patch, medical systems green. Sci-Fi, networks sensed. Zoran's eyes narrowed as he pored over the intel reports. The information gathered during the raid on the human colony was disturbing. It seemed the humans were far more advanced and capable than the collective had surmised. He drummed his fingers on the table, deep in thought. This changes everything, he muttered. We can no longer assume the humans will be easy prey. Lyra, his second-in-command, nodded gravely. The recordings show their Special Forces operatives displaying abilities beyond anything we've encountered. Their coordination, tactics, and sheer tenacity are worrying. Zoraon leaned back in his chair. We need to know more. I want a deep penetration reconnaissance mission into human territory, no matter the risk. We must understand their true strength if we are to have any hope of victory. It will be dangerous, Lyra cautioned. Our previous encounter proved they are formidable hunters. I'm aware of the risks, Zoraon said, but the stakes are too high to ignore. Prepare a team of our best operatives. We move out in 72 hours. Corporal Talia Voss gripped her rifle tightly as the dropship descended onto the alien world. The mission intel had been sparse, but the stakes were clear. This was a vital reconnaissance operation to gather intelligence on the collective forces amassing at the border. Remember, we're going in quiet, the team leader, Captain Ryder, said over the comm. No heroics, no casualties. We need to get in, find what we can, and get out without alerting the enemy. Talia nodded, steeling herself for the challenge ahead. The previous encounter with the alien mercenaries had been a wake-up call. These were no ordinary foes. She would need to be sharper, faster, and more vigilant than ever before. As the dropship's ramp lowered, the team swiftly and silently moved out, blending into the alien landscape. Talia's senses were on high alert, scanning for any sign of movement or hidden threats. They made their way deeper into enemy territory, their footsteps muffled by the alien foliage. Talia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, but the collective was closing in around them. Suddenly, a twig snapped in the distance. Talia whirled, weapon raised, but saw nothing. She glanced at Ryder, who nodded grimly. They were not alone. Zoraon's team of elite operatives moved with practiced precision, their footsteps barely disturbing the alien undergrowth. Lyra led the way, her keen senses attuned to the slightest disturbance. The humans are close, she whispered. I can feel their presence. Zoraon gripped his plasma rifle, his mandibles tensing. Then we must act quickly. Remember, we need them alive. I want to understand their capabilities firsthand. The team fanned out, encircling the human intruders with ruthless efficiency. Zoraon held up a hand, signaling his operatives to hold their position. He would take the lead on this encounter, determined to gain the upper hand. Stepping out from the shadows, Zoraon leveled his weapon at the human team. Greetings, Earthlings, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. I must admit, I'm impressed you've made it this far, but your luck has run out. Talia's heart pounded as she found herself staring down the barrel of the alien's plasma rifle. She cursed inwardly, realizing they had been outmaneuvered and surrounded. Stand down, human, the alien commander growled. You are vastly outnumbered and outmatched. Surrender, and I may spare your lives. Ryder's voice crackled over the comm. Negative, Corporal. We can't afford to be taken prisoner. Engage and extract on my mark. Talia steeled herself, her finger tightening on the trigger. This was no time for hesitation. As Ryder's command echoed in her ear, she opened fire. The alien team scattered, their plasma bolts streaking through the air. Talia dove for cover, returning fire with precision and deadly intent. The human team fought with a ferocity that caught the aliens off guard, their training and discipline proving a formidable match. But Talia knew it was only a matter of time before the sheer numbers of the collective operatives overwhelmed them. They needed a way out, and fast. Zoraon growled in frustration as the human team fought back with unexpected tenacity. He had underestimated them once again, and now his carefully laid plans were unraveling. Surround them, he barked. Do not let them escape. His operatives moved with ruthless efficiency, their plasma rifles raining down a withering barrage of fire. But the humans refused to break, their movements fluid and coordinated, their aim deadly accurate. Zoraon's mandibles twitched as he watched the battle unfold. These were no ordinary soldiers, They were seasoned veterans, their skills honed by years of combat experience, and they were fighting for their lives. As the firefight raged on, Sauron realized that simply overwhelming the humans with numbers was not going to work. He needed to change his tactics, to find a way to break their will and force their surrender. Suddenly, an idea formed in his mind. A cruel smile spread across his face as he signaled his operatives to hold their fire. "Enough of this futile resistance," he called out, his voice dripping with contempt. "I have a proposition for you, human, one that may just save your lives." Talia's breath caught in her throat as the alien commander ceased his assault. She exchanged a wary glance with Ryder, her finger still poised on the trigger. "What kind of proposition?" Ryder asked, his voice laced with suspicion. "A test of your mettle," Sauron replied, his mandibles shifting in a gesture that Talia could only interpret as a smirk. "If you and your team can survive my hunters, I may be inclined to spare your lives." Talia felt a chill run down her spine. The alien's words dripped with malice, and she knew they were playing a dangerous game. But if they refused, their only other option was certain death. Ryder's expression hardened, and Talia saw the grim determination in his eyes. "Very well," he said, his voice steady. "We accept your challenge." Sauron's mandibles parted in a toothy grin. "Excellent. May the hunt begin." With a wave of his hand, the alien operatives vanished into the shadows, leaving the human team alone and vulnerable in the alien wilderness. Talia took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. This was no time for fear. They had faced the unknown before, and they would do so again. Gripping her rifle tightly, she followed Ryder as they plunged into the unknown, ready to face whatever horrors lay in wait. The air was thick with tension as the human team moved cautiously through the alien landscape, their senses on high alert. Talia's heart pounded in her chest, her finger hovering over the trigger of her rifle. "Stay close and keep your eyes peeled," Ryder whispered over the comm. "Those alien bastards could be anywhere." Talia nodded, her gaze sweeping the surrounding foliage. The challenge laid out by the alien commander weighed heavily on her mind. Survive his hunters, that was the price of their freedom, but she knew better than to underestimate their foes. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. Talia whirled, weapon raised, but saw only the swaying of leaves. Her nerves were on edge, her senses heightened to the slightest disturbance. Time seemed to slow as Talia's training took over. She caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure darting through the undergrowth, and without hesitation, she opened fire. The plasma bolts tore through the undergrowth, eliciting a pained roar from the unseen target. "Contact!" Talia shouted, signaling the rest of the team. The clearing erupted in a chaotic exchange of fire as the alien hunters emerged from their hiding places, their plasma rifles blazing. Talia and her teammates fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their movements fluid and coordinated. But the alien hunters were no ordinary foes. They moved with a primal grace, their attacks precise and relentless. Talia felt the tide of the battle turning, the weight of the collective's numbers slowly overwhelming them. Just as she thought they were doomed, a deafening explosion rocked the clearing. Talia whirled around to see a massive, armored figure striding through the smoke, its massive frame shielding the human team. "What the?" Ryder's voice trailed off, his eyes widening in disbelief. Talia stared in awe as the figure advanced, plasma bolts ricocheting harmlessly off its reinforced armor. It was then that she recognized the distinctive silhouette, as Sauron, the alien commander himself, now leading the charge against his own people. Sauron's mandibles twisted in a savage grin as he unleashed a barrage of fire from his heavy plasma cannon. The human team's surprise was palpable, but he had no time to savor it. The hunt had taken an unexpected turn, and he needed to act quickly. "Fall back," he roared, his voice booming across the clearing. "Regroup and rearm. This battle is far from over." His operatives, still reeling from the sudden intervention, hastily retreated, their plasma fire covering their withdrawal. Zoraon stood his ground, his cannon spitting fury at any who dared to challenge him. As the dust settled, Talia and her teammates emerged from their cover, weapons still raised. Zoraon could see the confusion and uncertainty in their eyes, but he knew he had little time to waste. "Listen closely, humans," he growled, his tone laced with urgency. "The Collective is amassing a force unlike anything you've ever seen. They mean to crush your kind with overwhelming numbers and firepower." Ryder stepped forward, his rifle still trained on Zoraon. "And why should we trust you, alien? You've given us no reason to believe your words." Zoraon let out a harsh, guttural laugh. "Because, foolish human, I have as much to lose as you do. The Collective cares nothing for our individual lives. We are merely cannon fodder to them." Talia felt the weight of Zoraon's words, the desperation behind them. She glanced at Ryder, silently pleading with him to consider the alien's proposal. Ryder's expression hardened, but after a moment, he gave a curt nod. "What do you have in mind?" Zoraon's mandibles shifted in a gesture that Talia could only interpret as relief. "We must work together, human. The fate of both our peoples hangs in the balance." The air was thick with tension as the human and alien forces converged, their once bitter foes now bound by a common cause. Talia watched warily as Zoraon and Ryder discussed their plans, their voices low and urgent. "This is insane," Talia muttered under her breath. "How can we trust him?" "We don't have a choice," Ryder replied, his gaze never leaving Zoraon. "If what he says is true, we need all the help we can get." Talia knew he was right, but the thought of working alongside the alien commander who had so recently tried to capture or kill them made her skin crawl. Still, she couldn't deny the logic of their situation. As the plans were finalized, Zoraon turned to address the assembled teams. "The time for our reckoning has come. The Collective will soon descend upon your homeworld, intent on subjugating your species, but together we can stop them." Talia felt a shiver of determination run through her. This was their chance to not only save themselves, but to protect their home and everything they held dear. She gripped her rifle tighter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Let's do this," Ryder said, his voice firm. "For Earth." Zoraon's mandibles shifted in a gesture that Talia could only interpret as a nod of respect. "For the future," he rumbled. As the two teams set out, united in their cause, Talia knew that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. This was their moment to rewrite the narrative, to show the Collective that humanity and its allies would not go down without a fight. The final confrontation was at hand, and Talia was ready to face it head-on.